Yeah.
Shall I start
Sure.
or
Yeah.
wait a little bit?
Yeah, you can start, Ching.
Um, there are a few motivations.
Mm-hmm.
I work in Denmark,
Mm-hmm.
although my work language is English,
Mm-hmm.
but it's always more convenient for life and
Mm-hmm.
know the cultural stuff when you live and work in another country.
Mm-hmm.
And because I have some Danish colleagues and Danish friends, and they are also very helpful and willing to help if I want to learn Danish.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the motivation and the way I get to know a little bit Danish.
Great. What about you, Chloe?
For me, I would say it's a bit similar. So I work in Copenhagen in a school,
Yeah.
and I think it's just living in the country. You know, it's always easier to integrate, like to know a bit of the language.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a primary school teacher, and most of my students are bilingual. So I teach in a French section, so they speak French fluently, but most of them also speak Danish, and it's also good for me to know some basic because, of course, they're gonna be confused sometimes with Danish and with while trying to learn French.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I have colleagues, Danish colleagues as well, and just to be able to meet local people and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yes, so the basics, and obviously the two of you live and work in Denmark. You have some Danish friends and Danish colleagues, even if you work in international environments. And so the next question is, have you considered taking some actual classes, or how come you have not done so far?
So okay, I'm gonna start.
Mm-hmm.
I had started. There's a class. It's run by volunteers with the Red Cross, and I
Mm-hmm.
started this last November, December. But the time is not always convenient. Sometimes I've got meetings late during the day, and so I went to some classes already with that. Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Ching?
Mm. And I actually, at the very beginning, when I moved to Denmark, I have tried to apply for the Danish class of
Mm-hmm.
Studia Scholar.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, they had a quite strict entrance exam,
Mm.
both English part and Danish part. I think I failed the Danish part, and
Mm.
they told me they have very fast pace. I need
Yeah.
to go to a slower school.
Mm-hmm.
And like sometime after that, I get more like familiar with the Danish life and I have more other things to do after work. So it has been delayed because in Denmark, everyone speaks very good English.
Of
So
course.
it's kind of not a necessity to learn it immediately. So it has been delayed for long.
Mm.
Mm,
Okay. Great. Yeah, I understand. And Ching, how long have you been in Denmark now?
2 years.
2 years. Okay. What about you, Chloe?
7 months.
Okay. Okay. And have you found other ways of learning language? I'm thinking of apps or other things than the volunteer classes and language schools. There is my initiative, but I'm thinking, what about apps like Duolingo or stuff like that?
Yeah, I did try Duolingo.
Mm-hmm.
I have tried some different
Some different.
teachers.
One more time, Ching.
I have like watched some YouTube videos,
Uh-huh.
including yours, and also a few others. They have the basic Danish introduction, like
Uh-huh.
short videos online. That's also helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I guess in today's cafe we can go through some of the basics, but before we do that, I was thinking are there ways that you can already interact with Danes in a little bit of Danish? Like, how do you how do you do in your daily life when you, I don't know, you go grocery shopping, or like somebody says hello to you in Danish? Can you kind of get by with those kind of everyday general sentences? Like, yeah.
Um, Not really, I would say for me. I mean, I try sometimes at work, like to say how are you, things like that.
Mm,
But yeah, that's very limited.
very limited.
Um,
Yeah.
um, to me, because I've been here longer and hear colleagues greeting each other every
Uh-huh.
day,
Uh-huh.
mm, like I know those greeting words, but between me and dance, I think it's slightly weird for both sides to speak in Danish. Like,
Okay. So okay, good, 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 good. Um, I had another last question. So it's very limited. You hear your colleagues greet each other. Mm. Oh yeah. How does the language sound like? Does it make any sense to you? What does Danish sound like to you guys? Does it sound like an easy language, difficult language? Are there any words you recognize?
So I used to be a language teacher before
Mhm.
moving to Denmark, and I'm very interested in languages. But Danish doesn't sound like any other language I've heard before, and it sounds very tricky.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, I heard a lot this joke like when you are swallowing potato and makes a sound is Danish. But
Yeah.
at the beginning, it sounds to me like a language from another planet. But after 2 years, actually, it sounds much nicer. I think when you get to hear more and familiar, and also if you hear more the Danish music and raps and
Mm-hmm.
other things, so it sounds like kind of beautiful as well. Like with time, you get to know these uh,
Okay.
people more.
Great. Okay. Fantastic. Thanks a lot. So, one of the things that I have available online is, like, I used to have a lot of YouTube videos, but now I put all those videos on my own website, and there's a lot of, like, there's a few really good videos that are like an introduction to the Danish language, about this guttural way of speaking and so on. So I can actually add the link. Well, I'll add it at the end, but it's on a platform called Teachable, and here I have like about 100 videos, which is all about the pronunciation, the vowels, what does the language sound like, uh, beginner presentations, and various tips and advice for you to get started. And it's about 25 kroner per month to have access to all the videos. So if you're interested in those, I'll post a link. Good. So how to get started at Danish Cafe for absolute beginners? Well, you can imagine that I'm a Dane that doesn't speak any English whatsoever, and we meet and we have to somehow get communication going. And I think the very basics. So we would have to say, well, before we even say anything, what kind of body language, what kind of expressions, how would you initiate a communication with someone?
Mm. I think before you speak anything, a smile is always a good way to initiate communication.
Okay,
In or
great. Anything else?
Uh, yes, smile is a good one. Smile and I don't know, then maybe depending on the context, maybe checking hands, even though these days you don't do it anymore.
Yeah, sure. Maybe shaking hands. Yeah. What about the body language? Would you stand in a particular way if you're standing up?
If you are sitting somewhere and meeting someone coming by, it's polite to stand up
Hmm.
and like, or if the person is sitting, maybe it's also good you sit and
Hmm.
start the communication.
Sure. I'm also thinking if you cross your arms, maybe you are less likely to appear as wanting to initiate communication. Maybe avoid that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, that's, yeah.
and smile is a good. And also eye contact, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
If you
yeah.
look into the down into the ground or away, it's difficult to to show that you have an interest in communicating. Now, all of the above is pretty good, but the Danes, how do they come across in terms of like, the nature of Danes? Like how do they seem? Are they like Italians?
Uh, I have lived in Italy for quite some years, and
Mm-hmm.
I would say they are quite different
Mm-hmm.
from Italians. And Danes are also friendly, but compared to Italians from the South Europe,
Mm-hmm.
um, Danes keep a good distance and give each other enough privacy and not very active at the initiate um, conversation or other things like a little bit shy, not really like, but they are just mm, like less intense at um, in terms of getting contact with people
Mm-hmm.
compared to aliens. Mm.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think, Chloe? Chloe, I think you are you French?
Yes.
Great. I'm actually half French myself, and I've lived a couple of years in France. But what do you think? Do you already have an idea of the Danes being different than the French in terms of like the ways of being together or distance? I know now it's Corona times, but usually, more generally speaking, is there a difference in the nature of Danes and French people?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not that easy. Like I've not been here that long. Work has been quite intense as well.
Mm.
Um, and at work, obviously, it's different because how to say, like maybe we're not as natural. Like we have to interact with each other, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's more like cultural differences I've noticed so far, but.
Okay.
I don't know, but I agree with what was said before, like
Mm-hmm.
some distance and yeah, maybe less how to say out not as outgoing as some cultures in South Europe.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Great. Have you noticed? I don't know if you've ever taken the bus and you enter a bus and there's like not very many people on the bus and there's lots of free seats. Have you noticed that it would be you would be looked very strange upon if you sat next to a person on a seat if there were already a lot of other free available seats.
Yes, yes, that's very obvious. Yeah.
Like Danes, they do enjoy, they appreciate if you they're very helpful and friendly, but generally speaking, everybody kind of sticks to themselves in the public room, right? Everybody's doing their thing. You don't walk over and just speak randomly to a person you don't know unless it's for a specific reason. Do you know the time? Can you tell me where this is? So if it's for practical questions and so on, Danes will be very helpful. But it's difficult to strike up a conversation with Danes just for the sake of the conversation, I believe.
Uh, yeah, I think it's yeah, it's like this most of the cases. Yeah.
Good. The reason why I want us to think about this is because even if you know a little bit of Danish and you want to, oh, I'll go and try out my Danish, the few sentences I've learned, you cannot really do that. It's not easy to do just with people you haven't met before. But if you have some Danish colleagues, some Danish neighbors, people that know you already, usually they wouldn't mind that you try and say a few sentences in Danish and reply back if they have the time. Danes are usually busy, but if there's Danish people that you know already, I'm sure if you tell them, hey, could we try and can I try and say a few sentences in Danish? I'm sure they would be more than happy to try it out with you.
Mm.
I have a lot of students who are now at the higher levels, module 3 and 4 and so on at the language school where I work at Clavis and at Nørreport. And the main worry or like thing that my students mention is that it's very difficult to find people to speak Danish with. So the earlier you realize this as a challenge, the better you can prepare for it. Yeah. So in today's cafe, a few Danish sentence. Let's say we meet in real life, and you say, "Hello, Irvin. Good to see you. How are you doing?" Or a little bit about yourself. Do you know any of these basic sentences?
Mm, I always hear like "Hey,"
Yeah.
"Good morning," "Good
Yeah.
day."
Hmm. Yeah. Great. What about you, Chloe?
I'm trying to remember what's how are you now? Um, I forgot.
That's okay.
Mm, How are you?
Or any other like words you've picked up or things you hear the Danes say all the time?
Will become for when you eat,
Yeah, great.
or or also to say you're welcome. From what I understood, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I can
Mm-hmm.
similar.
Enjoy your meal or you're welcome. Great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And thank per day, thank per cake,
Thanks for cake. Thanks for cake. Or
cake.
thanks for today.
Thank for day, thank for cake.
So you have one expression that say a lot is tak for I dag. Thanks for
Thank.
today.
Yeah, I think I have heard that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, good.
Then things like skull,
Of
skull or
course.
skull.
Yeah, skål. Skål, great.
To
Oh,
look
scope. Right.
Cheers, yeah. Great. That's it. What about if you go to the supermarket? Isn't there like some words they always say to you when you're at the counter?
Ah, do you want the receipt? They
Yeah,
always say,
exactly.
but
Yeah, how do you say that?
well, I don't know actually. I'm
What's
just
that?
guessing they are saying that.
What, what's that strange word they're saying?
Sounds like
They
between,
say two
but
words.
I'm not
They say kvittering,
between.
kvittering, receipt, kvittering, and this is great. As I said in the beginning of the cafe, I'm recording this session, so you will be able to review or rewatch this session later. I'll put on a little. I have a YouTube playlist link on my Facebook page. Kvittering or bon, that comes from French, le bon. Do you want le bon with you? Bon,
Oh.
le bon, the receipt. Mhm.
Mhm.
So we have two words. Kvittering, which I believe comes from German Quittung, not sure, and bon, which is le bon in French, also means receipt. We just Danish cannot really say un compliment, so we say ang. For example, the word compliment in French, the Danes will say compliment. The name Jean Many Danes will say Shang. So
Ah,
it's more difficult for Danes to say some French words.
okay.
Good,
But
good. Yeah.
what's the difference of these two? Do they use in different occasions or it's just random? I hear the first more often than the second one, I think.
I hear the first one also quite often and the second one not as often, but they mean to me as a Dane exactly the same thing. There's probably a
Okay.
technical detail with it. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And
Yeah.
just out of curiosity, like most of the time, do they just say this word on its own, or would they say, "Would you like
A great
the
question.
receipt or no?"
Yeah, I was in Irma yesterday night and I noticed she said, "Vil du have bongen med?" Blah. So she mumbles a couple of words, which in writing looks uh, Bonenbong. I am not even sure how I put an I put an apostrophe here. Vil du have bongen med? But in terms of pronunciation, we say vil du have ba 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 bongen mm, bongen med, and we'll get into the Danish letters, of course. But the there are two main challenges with learning Danish. One is that all Danes want to speak English with you, and the second thing is that the way we speak is sounds completely different to the way we write. For example,
Mhm.
vil, very often the vowel e falls one step down to e, and the l we don't really have time for it. So the vil becomes ve. Du is du. We have a d, a hard d, and the u in Danish is u. Do. So that's all right. But then you have. Nobody says have anymore. Have. Jeg tack, det vil jeg gerne have. No. So we just say hey. Vil du have? Vil du have?
Mm.
And vil du have is good because it means do you want? So do
Okay.
you want in Danish, we literally just say want you have. Vil du have? So if you have guests over or a friend over, you say vil du have, and then you say whatever you have in your fridge. Cola, juice, whatever English
Mm.
word you can think of, Fanta, or you would have to learn a few Danish words like water, vand.
Yeah.
But very often in my teaching, I put capital letters here when I want to highlight how it's pronounced. Okay, so we swallow words and we reduce words and we mumble and we speak very fast. And the reason we can, the way we can speak very fast is by getting rid of end syllables and syllables in the middle of words, and that allows us to really reduce the pronunciation of a sentence and then speak very fast. So vil du have bongen med becomes vil du have bongen med? Vil du have bongen med? Yeah.
Mm.
And then let me see. There is a dictionary which is pretty good to make use of to get um, the pronunciation of words. You can use ordnet.dk.
Oh,
Here you will have the Danish dictionary, den danske ordbog. So let me see if I can find this French word bong. And so here you have, let me share the computer sound as well. You have how it's written, B-O-N, and then it says here declination or conjugation, E-N. Bong is a receipt, and if you add en, it's the receipt. Udtale means pronunciation. You want to click on
Bong,
this highlighted speaker icon,
bong,
and it sounds like bong, bong, right? So a receipt in Danish is en bong, a receipt. And in Danish, if you want to say the receipt, you just put the article en
mm.
at the end. So you will have some Danes that will say bongen, and I have to write it correctly. Banken, it means the receipt. Now, it's very important you understand that a receipt, you put the en in the front, and if you want to say the receipt, it's en at the end. Is that okay for you guys?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty simple language grammatically speaking, but the pronunciation is a challenge. Not only are a lot of words reduced and vowels changed in the sounds, but also we do something called a so-called glottal stop. Glottal stop. We call it stød, an electric shock of some kind. Not an electric, but stød means shock. And that's because when we speak, like in the word banken, you will hear that I do a small break between the first part of the word bang and the last part of the word banken. Can you hear it? I'm not saying bonnen, bonnen. I'm saying banken, banken. Yeah, can you hear it?
Yeah.
So that's the so-called glottal stop, and a lot of words like car should be bil, but we break it up in two, and we say bi il, bil, bil. So it sounds like two sounds for a three-letter word, bil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very strange. Bil, bongen. Vil du have bongen med? Do you want this receipt? I'll put the translation. Um, because this is a free Zoom session, the meeting will shut down in a few seconds. What you do, you just click on the link again so that we can do the remaining 20 minutes together. Is that okay for you guys?
Yes.
So if you don't mind, I'll just close the link now, the meeting now. You do the same. Just click on the same link and we start up again right away.
Is it gonna appear?
It's
on
it's
the
just told me
screen?
that I have less than a minute left before the meeting shuts down. It's because it's the free version of Zoom.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so I
Oh.
prefer we do it rather than Zoom does it, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So just click
Yeah.
on the same link and I'll see you again in a few seconds.
Okay.
Okay.
See you.
Okay.